So in preparation for installing the new tire on the rim, or the winter tire on the rim, a few things that we're going to have to be cautious of is we often change our valve stem here that has a Schrader in it, so you're going to make sure that you inspect that and make sure it's in good condition. Another thing is right along the safety bead of the rim, we have to make sure that that's clean of rust and grime from the old tire, so that when we put the new tire on, we have no bead leaks, which I will show you coming up in the mounting video. Okay, so this is the next portion of our mount and dismount video. This specifically deals with the mounting of the exact same tire on the rim that we were just working with for demonstration purposes. A few things to note is we have our tire we took off. It was marked on the other side of the actual corner of the vehicle that it was taken off of. So I need to make sure that I'm going to index my tire marking down in accordance with the actual place that it's going to go on the vehicle, so that we don't have those marks on the outside of the tire when it's installed. So the first portion is to take our tire, and of course we're just going to lift it up onto the wheel. And now we have to be sure that in the installation process, to keep our bead in good condition, unlike this one, that we provide an adequate amount of lubrication before we're going to install it. So on the right-hand side of the machine, we have a bucket of bead butter. We call it a nickname. It's just a sort of lubricant, and a brush to put a nice thin film on there to ease the installation. Okay, on the brush here, I just put a thin film of bead butter, and now I just give it a quick wipe once around each side. Okay, so I just need a nice thin film. Now I'm going to drop the tire back down. My next step is to give the bead a quick rub with a wire brush of some sort. Okay, at this point, it's much easier to change our valve stem while the tire is off the rim. I'm not going to do it, but just for demonstration's sake, this would be a new valve stem right here. This is a little bit large for this rim, but as you can see, it just has a wider base than top. This tool here is right on the tire machine. It just simply threads on to the old valve stem, and it pulls it through just by levering it off the rim. To take the old one off, you can just clip it off with side cutters, and then you just have to make sure that you're threaded on all the way, and you pull the new valve right through until it clicks past the small ridge. Okay. So for mounting our tire, I just simply make sure that I'm going on the right direction. The actual bead has been lubricated, and the valve stem has been installed like I just showed you. First step first, simply place the tire on in the correct direction, so the inside down. If the tire is directional at this time, make note of any arrows so that you know which way the tire will be rotated when it actually goes on the vehicle. And you simply just lay the tire to the back so that it hangs off. Drop the arm down so that the foot engages the rim again. Okay, so to begin our mounting process, we're going to lift the tire up onto the machine. We are going to make sure that we have adequately lubricated the bead of the tire, as well as installed the new valve stem if need be at this time. Next, we're going to make sure that we put the tire on the right direction. So at this point, I have my tire markings on the back side. I'd also take note, if this was a directional tire, it might have an arrow on it that points that it must rotate a certain way. Okay. So I'm going to place it down. I let it hang off the back side of the rim. Now I just simply drop down the arm and the foot into place so that it hooks on there. And now I'm going to start with installing the bottom bead first. So, important to this process is I Have to make sure that my bead goes on top of the downside, so the installation part of my tire foot. Okay, so as you can see, this is the installation foot and the ramp comes down. At this point, the tire can very easily be damaged if it is put on the outside of the foot, because it will be pinched in between the rim and the foot, and it'll actually tear it out, just like you see here on the tire. So it must be up on top of that, and the other half of the actual bead must drop down below the center of the rim and into the area that the drop center is in. So I want the tire sitting just like that before I step on my rotation pedal. So now to finish the installation of the bottom bead, I put some pressure on my tire so that it's in the drop center. You can give it a bit of a pull so that it's nice and tight. And I simply step on the right-hand rotation pedal and it drops that bottom bead right into the drop center. Now doing the exact same thing but with the top bead, I'm going to push down, make sure that the bead's behind the actual first bump and it's sitting right on that back ramp so that when I go to install it again, I will not pinch the tire. Important to this installation process is you must keep a lot of pressure on the outside of the tire here. Keep your hands away from the bead because there's a lot of pressure on it. So the best thing to do is use your knuckles. So I'm going to put my pressure here so that as my bead goes in, it goes right into the drop center. I hit the rotation button and it's going to push, rotate, and there you go, it's on. Okay, now that the bead and the tire has been installed on the rim, I just simply move the foot up and out of the way. Now we have to actually seat the bead, so it now has to actually lock onto the rim. So again, I will need my valve core tool. I'll need the valve core that I took out of the tire, and I just will put that in place so that it's ready to use when I need it. Okay. And now on the left hand side of the machine here, there is a actual fill hose that you just clamp right on to your valve stem, and there's also a foot pedal to operate the airflow to this. And so keeping my fingers completely clear of the bead, I'm going to start pushing and letting air fill that tire. Sometimes you have to give it a little lift to make sure the bead seats. And once you hear those pops, you know that both beads have snapped into place. Some tires are much harder than others to seat. I can use the gauge at the back here to give me kind of a baseline pressure so that I know how far I need to fill it. And once you get it up to your desired tire pressure, typically 30 to 35 pounds, you will then remove the hose off here. And since you do not have a valve core in place, the tire will want to leak. So you have to very quickly and efficiently place the new core inside of the valve, inside of your actual stem. So I'll remove it. Tighten it in place. And now I have my tire bead seated and my tire inflated with air. And before you remove it, you can always double check your tire pressures and fill it up if need be. And that is the installation of a tire on the Hunter TC3250 tire machine.